Everybody got a drink that needs drink? Good. All right. So first and foremost, my name is Dr. Scott Haggerty. That beautiful lady hiding back there is my wife, Dr. Lena Haggerty. So thank you all for coming to Eat tonight at the Health and Wellness. For those of you who are patients, we thank you so much for coming. For those of you who are guests, welcome. It's great to have you all here. So hope you enjoy the food and hope everyone's got a full belly. Now you can go ahead and settle in and we can talk about eat. So let me just kind of give you a little bit of an overview as to why we decided to do this. So we've been open here for now just shy of 4 years. And one of the biggest things that we face on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis is people struggle with food. There's a lot of information in marketing. There's a lot of misinformation in marketing about what you should eat, how you should eat, fad dieting, foods that you should and shouldn't have in your diet, and then how to go and eat a healthy diet. So we put this together in the way that we did with the presentation in our panel because I want to teach you guys how you can get the body that you want, achieve good health, but do it in a way that's sensible, attainable, and maintainable. So too often I see people who will yo-yo up and down and try different diet plans and try different nutritional things that will have negative impacts on the body. So what we want to do is we want to lay some foundations. Okay? So as we go through tonight, feel free to stop me if you have questions. I'll be only about 20-30 minutes, and then we're going to go into a panel discussion. I encourage participation tonight. We have a panel of guests here. I'm going to introduce them briefly. So this is Justin Castellano. Justin is an amateur bodybuilder. He is also the owner of Supplement Haven in Brunswick, and I'll tell you more about that later. This is Grace Carney. She owns Passion Juice Bar. She is a figure competitor. This is Greg Krause. He is an IFBB pro professional bodybuilder. So they're here because for many of you, you know that I, at one time, was a competitive bodybuilder. Not as competitive as they are. But one of the things that I learned about the community, the way that bodybuilders as a whole and figure and fitness competitors as a whole eat, is it's planned, it's manageable, and it's about small, sustainable changes to your body in ways that maintain health, but still get the figure or fitness or physical change goals that you're looking for. So we want to talk about how to go and get where you want to in a sustainable manner so that you don't lose your health in the process and make long-term sustainable lifestyle changes. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So one of the first things here, key to healthy eating is avoid basically anything that has a TV commercial, right? So, interesting stat. So, poor diet kills more people than cigarettes now. Did you hear that? Poor diet kills more people than cigarettes. 2010 stats show that 680,000 people die from dietary habits every year versus 465,000 people a year that die from smoking-related illnesses. Is that a scary stat to you guys? It is to me too. The worst part about this is it's not getting better yet. So what we need to do here is we need to start making those changes. Because the things that you take out, you'll be able to apply today, so we can start making the changes so that we can start bringing this number backwards. So this is a 1985 map, and what it showed was U.S. obesity rates, okay? So you can see in here that no data, 10% of the population or less, which is these, here, 10 to 14% of the population, so didn't see much of that, and then 15 to 19% obese in 1985. That's 2010. So you see that greater than 1/3 of our country, 30% of the population in these states or more are obese at this point. Is anyone scared by this? We got to do this together, okay? One of the things that we have to learn is this is a community, okay? We have to encourage each other, we have to help each other. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to unpack how to go and do it, how to support one another, and how to eat the right ways. Okay, so let's talk about predictions. Department of Health predicts that 60% of the population will be obese by 2050. 28% are today. 70% of girls and 55% of boys are expected to be obese within the next 40 years. That's a scary stat, right? That's my kids, right? So we're looking at a nationwide epidemic here that we have to stop today. On average, children only eat 2.5 portions of fruit and vegetables per day. That's a scary stat, right? I mean, where are they going to get their vegetables? Where are they going to get the macronutrients? Where are they going to get those things that drive that good health if they're not getting their vitamins and minerals from the fruit and vegetables, right? I mean, because, you know, supplementation is important, but the food is where the stuff that gets into your body the most readily available comes from, right? I mean, you want to try and fill in the gaps, right? You want to eat whole food first, get the nutrients from the food, supplement second to try and make sure that you're filling in the gaps where the body's not getting what it needs. So we want to try and figure out how we're going to get ourselves to say wow when we look in the mirror. So let's start talking some basics. Why do we eat for health, right? We want to try and eat to get an abundance of energy. Everybody wants to look good because it affects your self-esteem. You want to get a complexion that people will talk about, positive spirit and outlook, be a poster family for health in your community, and someone who looks in the mirror and says, damn, I look good. Not me, folks. So to eat well, what you must know to look in the mirror and say, wow. Strategy 1, eat like a caveman. Anyone ever heard of the paleo diet? Right? You know we have some CrossFitters in here. You guys are paleos. Okay, so the Paleolithic diet is a pretty simple strategy, okay? It was developed by a PhD researcher named Dr. Lauren Corday. The whole crux behind it is, let's get a lot of the grains, inflammatory foods out of our systems, because certain foods we know are drivers of inflammation. Let's go back to basics, because up until the last 100 years, cereal grains were not a big component, beans were not a big component of the standard diets. So, grass-produced meats, fish and seafood, fruits and veggies, omega-3 eggs, not your standard off-the-shelves, because there's a difference between off-the-shelf eggs and omega-3 eggs. Do you guys know that they said that cholesterol from eggs is not bad, right? But not all eggs are made equal. So if you're going to eat eggs, you want to eat organically raised, omega-3 based eggs, because you are what you eat. So traditional farm-raised eggs, they feed them a lot of grains to fatten them up, okay? Very high omega-6s, plus these animals are in close quarters, so they produce lots of cortisol. Stresses them out. Their eggs come out, all the same chemicals of their stress go into them and then passed on to you, okay? Healthful oils. So you want to get lots of olive oil, walnuts, flax, macadamia, avocado, things like that, coconut, because fats are good for you, okay? I want to say that again. Fats are good for you. A lot of people think, I got to eat a low-fat diet. Eating a low-fat diet is the absolute worst thing that you can do for your health, okay? You got to have fat. Your brain is made mostly of fat. If you do not have sufficient fat, your brain function goes down. It is one of the most important sources of energy for you. You need it for just about every metabolic process. Every cell is lined with it, so you got to have fat. You won't have proper endocrine function. Your glands won't work the way they're supposed to. You won't make your steroid hormones, estrogen, testosterone, things like that, if you don't have enough fat. Okay? So what you want to avoid is the long-chain saturated fats from the traditional, industrial raised beef and pork and things like that. That's the kind of stuff you want to stay away from. And you want to keep your omega-6 fatty acids and your omega-3 fatty acids in balance. Omega-6 fatty acid sources are things like your cereal grains. Okay? That's what we don't want to have a lot of. They've got a lot of negatives. So you want to try and get your omega-3s, which come from your fish and your coconut, or your avocado and things along that lines. Keep the omega-3s high, keep the omega-6s low. And we can dig into that another time a little bit deeper. What not to eat. So cereal grains, minimal intake. Okay? Not saying never eat cereal grains again. I know a lot of people love to go and have, you know, a bowl of cereal every once in a while. Make it so that it's a once in a while thing, not an all the time thing. Cereal should not be a staple in your diet. Wheat products should not be a staple in your diet. They're very inflammatory. Okay? I know that the FDA has always said, get your grains. Okay? The research absolutely does not substantiate this. Grains are not supposed to be part of your diet. Grains are super high in sugar. The second that they hit your mouth, they start to break down and form simple sugars, number one. Two, their cell walls are omega-6 fatty acids, which the second you start digesting them, they start going through like a wrecking ball and irritating and inflaming every cell in your body. Okay? Primary reason that we have an epidemic of heart disease in this country is because low-grade systemic inflammation from high glycemic index, high omega-6 diets, high processed food diets. A lot of these things are chemical insults to the arteries that lead to heart disease. So we want to start getting a lot of those foods out of our diets, getting back to more simple, more naturalistic foods. Okay? So legumes, including peanuts, you want to have a minimal intake. Okay? So do we have any vegetarians in here? Okay. So it's difficult when you have a high bean diet because number one, beans don't often have enough proteins or enough complex proteins. to give you complete coverage whether synthesized in your body. Okay? Number two, they can also be very inflammatory. There's another thing in another presentation I did. If you guys go to our website, wehelpemwellness.net under the blog section, I actually did a presentation where we talked a lot about some of the problems with eating vegetarian bean diets. There's a thing called phytates they create. So if you eat too many beans, these things can actually be very inflammatory to the system, and have been shown to have some links to some types of chronic diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. So refined sugars, dairy. So has anyone checked our Facebook page today, just by chance? Okay, when you guys leave here, there was a gentleman here, I reposted a video today, that talked about cow's milk, all right? It is the most simplistic but most true statement about cow's milk I've ever heard. I'm not going to ruin it for you. Go to our Facebook page, check it out, and if you drink milk now, you probably won't after you watch this, okay? All right, so refined sugars, okay? So blood sugar management's a big deal. Okay? So blood sugar management is one of the problems that we have that's leading to obesity, because you find so many foods are super high in sugars, right? You hear all the fuss about high fructose corn syrups, all the added sugars in foods, okay? So both are problematic for different reasons. So fructose passes through your system with nothing slowing it down. When you take in simple sugar, at least your body has to go and have a traditional insulin response. So fructose is processed in your liver and doesn't have anything to stop it from getting into your cells. So it's instantly turned into fat, okay? So fructose is something you want to try and minimize in your diet, okay? Potatoes have minimal intake, okay? So most potatoes, especially like your traditional Russets, are high glycemic index or high blood sugar impact. So if you want to have potatoes, make sure that you have red skins with the skin on. Those are the best kind, most nutrient dense. So always eat them to get the added fiber. Fiber slows down the absorption of your carbohydrates. You should never eat a single food group in isolation. Never just protein, never just carbohydrates, never just fats. Eat them in combination. If you eat a fat, a protein, and a carbohydrate together, by having that, even if you have a food that's a higher sugar, the combination of the others, they bring down the glycemic index of that other food. Okay? Never eat one thing in isolation. So don't have just morning toast, right? You don't want to have that one food. You want to have other things in combination with it: a protein, complex carbohydrate, and a fat source, right? Processed foods. So in processed foods, there's a number of different reasons. A lot of chemicals added to processed foods, okay? I could go on and on and on about processed foods. If you can't pronounce it, if you don't know what it is, you should not be putting it in, okay? Salt. All right, two major problems with salt. One, most people don't drink enough water. We'll dig into that later. So salt thickens your blood, okay, leading to high blood pressure, okay? So you want to try and minimize salt intake. Processed foods are super high in salt. Refined vegetable oils, okay? So refining the vegetable oils changes that. So hydrogenated fats are very, very dangerous to your system, okay? So that extra heating that they do to go make it a hydrogenated fat makes it extremely inflammatory and is one of the primary drivers of heart disease, okay? Questions so far?
Something like a Greek yogurt, would that fall under dairy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Something you should stay away from.
You want to minimize dairy intake, okay? So one of the big things you have to consider with dairy is that, so the purpose of cow's milk is pretty simple, right? It is to grow baby cows. So it has hormones in it that are made to grow and fatten up cows. Well, so when we have large quantities of it in our diets, it grows us. It grows fatty tissue. It grows our glands. It perpetuates conditions that we shouldn't have by the amount of dairy that we take. Okay? So you don't want dairy to be stable. It should be something you have periodically, but not on a regular basis. Okay? I just put this in because I thought it was cute. All right. So, oh, come here, Dr. Ling. Let me put it up here so you can see. All right. Okay. So, general rules of thumb. So, who here eats 6 small meals per day? Okay. All right. So this is one of the first and most important things to start taking to heart. Okay. It is incredibly important to eat frequently. Who knows what your thyroid gland does? Go ahead.
It regulates your body temperature and some of your hormones.
There's a hormone that's produced that stimulates it, yes.
That's all I know.
Regulates metabolism. Okay. So your thyroid gland is stimulated by what you eat, okay? So if you eat frequently, your thyroid hormone levels stay high. When you have a gap greater than about 3 hours, there is an immediate rapid fall off in the thyroid gland. So you know what happens? The next time you eat, if it's 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours since the last meal, you are now in starvation mode. And your body says, ooh, okay, so now I'm only going to take as many calories and nutrients from this meal as I absolutely need for function, because I don't know how long it's going to be to the next meal, and I'm going to store the rest for later. Big gaps in meals cause obesity, okay? You got to eat often. You got to keep that thyroid gland working, because that is what is going to drive your metabolism up, okay? All of your systems start to go downhill when you go into that mode. Protein. Protein is incredibly important, okay? Protein is the giver of life to your system. If you don't have protein, you cannot heal and rebuild, okay? So having adequate protein intake is extremely important. Now, we'll dig into that a little bit later when we talk to the panel about the kinds of protein, the amounts of protein that they eat. We can talk a little bit more in depth another time about it, but protein is essential, okay? Every cell in your body requires protein. It's required for recovery, your immune system cells, your nervous system cells. For you to grow hair, you have to have sufficient amounts of protein. So it's a very, very, very important piece of your diet. So, and there's a multitude of protein sources that you can get from things like, we talked about already, fish, chicken. You know, if you're a vegetarian, obviously some of the bean sources, although not ideal. Whey protein, egg protein, things like that. There's a lot of different ways to go and get into your system, but you've got to get it in on a regular basis. Even a lot of nuts are very dense in proteins. A lot of vegetables are also very dense in it. Complex carbs, okay? So complex carbs help to go and regulate your blood sugar, so you prevent the ups and downs, okay? So who here does not understand what complex carbs are versus simple carbs? Are we all on the same page when I say this? No? Okay. All right. So let's talk a complex carb. All right. So I put up here berries, sweet potatoes, veggies. Okay. So let's take a raspberry. Okay. A raspberry, although very sweet, is a very low glycemic index food. Okay. So it has a lot of fiber, and the type of sugar that it has in it is low impact on your blood sugar. Okay. Sweet potatoes are extremely fibrous. Okay. So, and because of the length of their chains, they also absorb very, very slowly in your system because they're starch. They have a lot of fiber with it, so they absorb very, very slowly when you eat it. So when we talk about high glycemic versus low glycemic index, what we're talking about is the amount that comes in at once or quickly in your system and the impact it has on your blood sugar. When you have something like, let's say for example, a sundae when you go and get some ice cream, high glycemic index, okay? Lots of sugar, big impact, lots of sugar comes in at once. Big insulin response, your body's going to only be able to go and use so many of those calories, so it has to go and secrete a ton of insulin, get the rest of that excess sugar out of there, and store it, okay? So the problem with high glycemic index things like your sugars, your bakery, your pastas, a lot of those types of things, high glycemic index, big impact on blood sugar, lots of stored fat left over, because you're very rarely going to be able to digest the amount of carbohydrates that you take in a sufficient amount. Almost always, if you have a moderate-sized portion of a simple carbohydrate, it's going to be greater than what your body can take in and use at one time, and then you're going to store some. Okay? Like if you take a look at like a pasta size. Okay? So 2 ounces of pasta is about the amount that most people can handle. Who here actually eats 2 ounces of pasta at a serving? I don't. Right? I mean, if you go out and you're going to eat 2 ounces of pasta, you're going to be left really hungry when you're done. It's about that much. Right? Really small portion. Okay? Now, whereas if you're going to have a sweet potato, right, you could probably have half of a large sweet potato, and your body can handle the absorption of that. Because it's not going to spike your blood sugar, it'll keep you very level over a long period of time. Keep your blood sugar so it doesn't spike. It's a steady stream of energy, not a quick stream. Okay?
Hey, Scott.
Yes?
Real quick, before you guys go freaking out, which means you'll never be able to eat pasta again or cake, there are times you can eat it throughout the day that it'll be beneficial for you, and we'll get into that later. So
Thanks,
just so
Greg.
you don't think, oh God, we'll never get anything again. Just trust me. We all have ice cream on occasion.
Yep.
We all have cake and all that too, but there's certain times.
Thank you, Greg. I
I've
appreciate
seen
that.
a lot of sad faces. So.
Thank you. All right. So with carbs, the rule of thumb too is you have more carbs early in the day and you decrease throughout the day. naturally your metabolism slows as the day goes, okay? So there's a rule of thumb, eat like a king in the morning, prince in the afternoon, pauper in the evening. So slowly decreasing the size of your meals, also decreasing the amount of carbohydrates. Small amounts of healthy fat with each meal, okay? That's real important, okay? You gotta keep a consistent amount of this stuff in your system. That's why you always wanna keep a little bit of fat, a little bit of protein, a little bit of carbohydrates throughout the course of the day with every meal. Keep them in balance. Variety is key, right? Lots of color, okay? So color in fruits and vegetables, these are the antioxidants. These are these little macronutrients that protect our cells. All of them have vital functions, and all of them serve a different purpose. Get as much variety in color as you can. Lots and lots of greens, okay? Even if you're not a greens lover, we'll talk about smoothies. There's a lot of great ways you can get your greens in to try and get that nutrient value so that it'll taste good, even if you're not a big veggies person. Then, of course, allow yourself a cheat meal once or twice a week, right? I mean, part of it is you know, you want to go on the whole, be consistent in eating well, trying to manage your diet, but you also have to give yourself a little bit of leeway, like Greg was talking about. And there's times with training when you'll be able to go and give yourself a little bit of leeway, but also giving yourself once or twice a week where you can indulge, right? Let down a little bit, eat a meal that you like, so you're not going to feel like you're depriving yourself. That's important for mental sanity, okay? Yes?
It's brown foods.
Huh?
This is brown foods.
Yes. So brown foods are fried foods.
Oh.
Okay. If the food is you know, if you're looking at a plate, you go to McDonald's, you're seeing chicken tenders and French fries and that type of thing. Do you think that has nutrient value? Right? Clearly not. Okay. So you want to avoid brown foods. You want a lot of variety in your food. There should always be lots of color. All right. So never be hungry, never be full. Right? We don't want to stuff ourselves. We want to go and eat until you're content, but not overfull. Water. Okay. So who's walking around with a water bottle? Good. Okay. So next time we do this, I want every hand to raise up and say that. Okay? You guys are 70% water. Okay? Water is crucial to every function in your body. Metabolism being one. Okay? Blood pressure regulation being two. Okay? So let's just talk about dehydration is a real problem. All right? So does anybody here know somebody who's got high blood pressure? Just about everybody does, right? Do you know the easiest way to go and affect a lowering of a person's blood pressure? Have them drink more water. Think about this. Has anyone ever heard the term viscosity before? Okay. Can anybody tell me what viscosity is? Go ahead.
The slowness, how fast something travels through like a liquid.
Yeah, it's a fluid's flow rate through a tube. Well, are your arteries tubes? Okay. So when you're talking about the flow rate, if you have more fluid in the system, blood is thinner. If you have less fluid in the system, the blood is thicker. What do you think is going to be increased if the blood is thicker? What risk factors are going to be increased if your blood is thicker? What's that? Okay, such as? Okay, so heart attack risk? Exactly. The thicker the fluid is, and that's part of the issue too with sugar, right? Sugar also thickens your blood. Okay? So when you talk about fluid viscosity, if you don't have enough fluid, your blood is thicker, it's harder to go and pump through the arteries, you increase risk factors for heart attack and stroke. I'm sure we all know family members or loved ones who've been down those roads with both. Easiest, most modifiable way to affect blood pressure, drink more water. Okay? Start at a half gallon, work to 3/4, try and get to a gallon. Your kidneys will adapt over time, but believe me, it can be life-saving for a lot of people. Okay? And avoid soda. Okay? I mean, there's absolutely no nutritional value in soda. One of the big issues too, and I don't know if you guys know this, there's the fizz in your pop. It's from what's called carbonic acid. Okay? Do you know, anybody here have somebody in the family that has osteoporosis that is a pop drinker? Okay. So the fizz, carbonic acid, it takes out this stuff called phosphorus from your bones and is going to drive the pace and severity of osteoporosis in people that are pop drinkers. Okay? Plus, pops are also very high in sugar if you're having like traditional Coke or Pepsi. So you hear the marketing of we just switched to real sugar. Do you think that makes it healthier? Right? Of course not. So it's still high glycemic index. The worst way to get your calories is liquid calories, right? So getting this stuff out is one way to go and very easily modify that. But substituting with diet pop, in a lot of ways, is just as bad. So artificial sweeteners can also impact your blood sugar negatively. Plus, there's a lot of other long-term stuff. They just don't know about the health effects of artificial sweeteners. Okay. So is anybody here a smoothie drinker? Good to hear. All right. So one of the best ways to get your greens, fruits and vegetables, is by smoothies. Okay? I'm a big smoothie fan. All right? So I drink smoothies several times per day. So great way to go and get your nutrients in. Great way to go and get fiber, protein, carbohydrates. So tons and tons of value to it. Yes?
Okay, I missed it, I stepped away for a second.
Yeah.
But we had water. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge water drinker.
Yes.
Like when I drink water, I use those little bit of those like additive things you can put in there to flavor your water a little bit. Are those really bad? Like, is that bad to help you?
Well, let me throw you a question.
Okay.
Okay. Do you know what everything on the label is? Okay, that's your answer. Okay? If you don't know what it is, you can't pronounce it, then it's a chemical that was synthesized to improve its flavor,
Okay.
and it's probably not. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to tell you, like, instead of that, maybe squeeze some, like, lemons in there, squeeze some oranges and stuff, just to give it some extra flavor. Sometimes I know it brings fun.
Yes.
We knock those sweeteners out. When someone's in for a contest, they'll lose like 35 pounds. Because the chemicals do retain a lot of fat.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, who's my coffee drinkers? Okay. All right. So, let's talk about coffee. So, does anybody know what B vitamins do?
Complexion.
Well, the primary thing that B vitamins do is they drive your energy processes. So they deplete your B vitamins. Okay. So the longer you've been drinking coffee, the more it depletes it. Okay. So you want to make sure that you try and just thinking about starting to decrease coffee intake, because the more those B vitamins are depleted, the more lethargic you're going to become, and then if you come off of coffee, the more lethargic you feel. Promotes chronic dehydration. So for every 1 cup of coffee that you drink per day, you have to drink at least 2 cups of water to replace what you've lost. Anybody know that? That's a significant amount, right? Because in a standard cup of coffee is 200 milligrams of caffeine. Okay? So that puts a lot of stress on your kidneys and really dehydrates you, especially if you drink coffee consistently. Okay? Good alternative is, if you still have to have a little caffeine kick, try going down to green tea. Okay? At least you're getting some antioxidant value from the green tea. Much better for you than drinking coffee. All right? Now, you're talking, it's about a little under half. It's about 80 milligrams of caffeine per serving. So you still get a little bit of the caffeine jolt, but much less. All right. So raises cholesterol, sends insulin levels out of control. So high insulin equals stored fat. Contributes to rheumatoid arthritis. If you know anybody that has rheumatoid arthritis and they're still drinking coffee, get them off of that, get them off of dairy right away. Damages blood vessels. Okay? So hearing a lot of commonalities here. You want to try and protect those arteries and blood vessels. Long-term coffee use will cause a lot of that. All right. So let's be creative. So when you start talking about being creative, try different things. There's a lot of great resources out there for you. Okay? For example, there's, for the paleo folks, so the writer of the paleo book, Dr. Cordain, has like cookbooks online, cookbooks you can buy, books about it. There's whole websites that are devoted to this. So if you're trying to go and get into a more paleo-type lifestyle, you want to start learning how to do that, there's tons of great resources out there, right? In our household, we go pretty darn close to paleo. But what we've learned how to do is take a lot of the foods that aren't traditionally very good for you and make them healthier. Right? Because one of the things I was never going to give up was fried chicken. Right? Anybody here like fried chicken? Okay. So one of these days we'll talk. I've got a fantastic fried chicken recipe, and it's healthy as can be. Okay? You can change things, right? You can switch over. So instead of using like a wheat flour, right? We have a flax meal, coconut flour, or in some cases rice flour if we want a little thinner breading, and you cook it in either coconut oil or olive oil. Okay? So you can still eat a lot of the food, just modify it. By making those simple changes where you use a flax meal, coconut flour breading, guess what happened? Get the gluten out, because you don't want the wheat gluten. Number 2, you also lower the glycemic index because it's normally a wheat flour breading. So you've got a couple of major positives. You get protein, you get fiber. If you cook it in an olive oil or a coconut oil, you have healthy fats, and it's low glycemic index. See how you can make some simple changes when you learn how to go and modify the foods, right? Even like bakeries and things like that, you can modify by adding more fiber sources in. So next month we're going to be doing a talk called Healthy Little Pumpkins. We're going to talk a lot about that stuff. So if you have kids, that'll be a good one to come back for. Because we're going to talk about ways to go and take a lot of your treats and make the treats not so healthy. Okay? All right, any questions so far? So here's the websites for the smoothies. So Simple Green Smoothies is a great one. Dr. Josh Axe has a great website with a lot of nutritional tips and smoothies and greens. Yes, ma'am?
Are you sending us this?
So I have a whole report that I'll send out with a lot of this information here, plus a lot more links and things like that. Okay. So this is my personal favorite. I do a coconut oil, flax meal, almond butter, spinach and kale, mixed berry, and chocolate protein shake. So I do this one all the time. I love it. I'm like absolutely addicted to it. It doesn't even feel like I'm eating healthy because it's so good. Yes, ma'am?
I see a whey there.
Yeah.
Is it whey, the byproduct, like a dairy product?
It is technically a dairy product, but by the way that it's extracted, the most concern when you're talking about whey or about dairy is you're talking about the sugars and the fats. Okay? The whey protein is an extract, it's purified, so they really just basically strip it down to the proteins. It's a lot less of an impact on us than that. Okay, so just some basic myths, and I think a lot of these we've covered today. Whole wheat is a health food and an essential part of a balanced diet. Would anybody still agree that that's true? Okay. So eating fat makes you fat. Anybody think that's still true? All right. A high protein diet oftentimes is said to go and raise strain on the kidneys. Okay, that is definitely not true, especially if you have adequate water intake. So strain on the kidneys from a high protein diet is definitely not a problem. All calories are not created equal. One thing I want everyone to bust the myth of, calories in does not equal calories out. Okay? Calorie counting is a very, very broken system. You cannot count your calories and make consistent gains. What they're going to talk about here in a second is about how you learn how to go and eat and time your meals appropriately to your activity levels and plan the way that you eat. You can guarantee success if you have a plan. And that's what we're going to dig into in a second. The only people who should go gluten-free are people with celiac disease. Not true. So I did a presentation that's on our website called The Problem with Wheat Is. If you guys get a chance, go and watch this. There's a lot of information on it that talks about the damage that our current type of wheat is doing. Processed wheats are very harmful to our society. Everyone's heard of gluten, correct? So there's two major proteins you get from wheat, gluten and gliadin. Both of those are very harmful. They've been related to things such as thyroid disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and a couple other conditions, and even some neurodegenerative conditions, things like schizophrenia, have actually been linked directly back to it. So there's not much good about the modern wheat, the way that we eat it. Now, if you're talking about the traditional stuff before it was made into flours, much better for you, because if you eat, say, for example, like a sprouted is much healthier. It comes with all of its native enzymes. Your body can digest it and process it better, like Ezekiel bread. If you want to have a wheat bread, have Ezekiel bread. It's a raw sprouted. You usually find it in your freezer section. Okay? All right. Any questions before we move on? Did I do that well? Come on now. No. All right. So if you, yes, ma'am.
You talk about processed food,
Yes.
but then what about like these protein powders and all that kind of, wouldn't that be considered a processed food?
So what we talked about is you don't want to go and have supplements to be your base. Okay? They're an add-on to fill in the gaps. Okay? Some people have to take more than others. Okay? But it's different. It's not like you're adding a whole bunch of salt and a whole bunch of preservatives. It's a different process altogether. And they can elaborate a lot more on that because that's their area of expertise. Okay? But food should always be your first. You should always be thinking about how to eat as much whole food as possible because that's what your body's made to go and digest first. Okay? And then you fill in the gaps with the other stuff. Yes,
So what you're saying is that you shouldn't just be eating like protein shakes, as replacement meals, but it's like a snack or a supplement to the whole foods.
correct. Whole food should always be your foundation.
Okay.
Always, 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 always. Yes?
It's something that, I would like the foods now don't have the same vitamins and minerals in it. that they
Correct.
used to. So I've heard that Project Juice Plus, if you're aware of that.
Mhm.
Supplementing with that, is that something we would do?
Okay, I'm glad that you brought that up. Okay, so I'm going to tell you an opinion. All right, and so since you're in healthcare, you'll understand. I put high value on research. Okay, when my wife was pregnant, we were looking at the Juice Plus as a possible prenatal, and the person who was selling it to us said, "Oh yeah, you can use it as prenatal." So what we did is we requested research. The problem was you couldn't get research. So when yes. Yeah, the values on there are very, very low.
They won't release them.
Yeah,
They wouldn't
No.
give a breakdown
of what's in them.
of quantity of what I was getting. So like I couldn't find out how much C or how much A or how much D.
Right.
They wouldn't release the makeup. And so it's hard to get an opinion on something that
Right.
doesn't have any
And
data.
one thing that you know is that everything's quantifiable. They can take those pills, they can extract how many vitamins and minerals are on there. So I have a problem when they won't give that kind of information out. Okay? All right. So does anybody need a break before we move on? All right. So I'm going to start off here. We're going to go through and we're going to talk, but this is open. Okay? If we start talking about something, you want some additional information here, feel free to go and jump in, ask questions, because this is about you guys. I want to make sure that you get everything you came for out of this tonight, okay?
I'm going to pass the sign-in around really quick, and feel free to come and get more food.
Please do.
I'm not taking all this home. And I've already left, so.
So the garbage disposal is gone. Okay, so we're going to go down the row here, and I'm going to pose everybody a question. And so we're going to kind of get some ideas of the variances and what they do. So first question is, Justin, how many times per day do you eat? 7 times per day? Chris, how about yourself? Okay, Greg, what about you?
7, 8.
Okay, all right. Now, so I want you guys to tell us a little bit about your backgrounds in health and fitness. So Justin, let's start with your background.
Well, I graduated high school, I was 6'2", 135 pounds, so I ran cross country wrestling my whole life, and just kind of wanted to change that. So over the past 10, 12 years, just started getting into eating right, researching, learning from guys who've been around a lot longer than myself.
Day older.
Yeah. Just seeing what was working for them, and what I wanted to do to accomplish where I wanted to be. Got into the supplement industry, started learning more, started looking at more research, and then now I'm 235 pounds, 6'2". But I mean, again, it took me a long time to get there. It's been over 14 years.
Quite a process. All right. Grace, how about yourself?
I've basically been in it my whole life. My father was a bodybuilder, and my mother, if we wanted something sweet in the house, eat an orange. We never had any junk food, never had Pop Tarts, probably 11 years old. Grew up with the juicer right on our counter, the Jack LaLanne forever. I've kind of basically been in it my whole entire life, and I always knew it was my passion and pendant, because I had a juice bar called Passion Juice Bar, that I was going to open something like that because the wheatgrasses and all the stories and all the things that I've witnessed, seeing people with healing and juicing and stuff, has just been insane. So I really have gotten into digging deeper, probably in the last 10 to 12 years as well.
Awesome. Greg, how about yourself?
I got my first weight set when I was 11, and I hate to say it's been 51 years later. I still have that weight set, but I don't get to use it anymore. I outgrew it a little bit, I'm happy to say. I taught school for 35 years. I taught finance and economics, but I have a master's in sports science. I did my practicum on bodybuilding and everything. I compete competitively, luckily enough to be on a professional level now. We have a training business, obviously now that I retired from teaching. I coach football over here in North Royalton, and just when you were bringing up about the protein drinks, since I ran home to grab my wife, I didn't have time to eat a little more of my meals, so in went the protein powder, my fiber, and everything else to drink that before I got here. But I got salmon waiting for me at home with some other buddies on it. We put on a huge bodybuilding and fitness show out in Kent State, my partner, my wife and his wife and I, over Memorial Weekend. Matter of fact, both of these characters up here are sponsors that help with the show and everything else. Where we do put on the bodybuilding, the bikini, the fitness and all that, but we also have a 5K run that somebody almost ran in last year. But I'm not going to mention names. But that's kind of my history. I've coached football for over 40 some years, and I used to be the strength coach at the high school Cleveland Heights that I used to teach at.
All right. So let's just talk when we start getting into different parts of the season, okay? When it's time to start losing body fat, let's talk about some of your strategies and how you go through when you're ready to go into your pre-contest cycle to start working down. What is your diet like? What is your training regimen like?
I guess the biggest thing you change is probably my carb intake. Lower the carbs, up the fats. Again, you're just eating those meals at certain times of the day. First thing when you wake up, I'll have my carbs. Post-work, I'll have my carbs. Calories, they don't change them a whole lot. I mean, I'll up my cardio a little bit and just try to see slow changes throughout the process. I mean, really, you're only looking, in my case anyways, I try to look at 1 to 2 pounds of body fat loss, per week at max. I mean, if you're losing any more than that in a week's process, I mean, honestly, you're probably losing muscle. There's really no way to lose more than that in a week without that. Beyond that, just each, I guess I separate it into quarters. Every quarter I go through, I'll reassess, take pictures, see where I'm at, see how much I've changed, and then, just keep moderating it as I go.
Okay. All right. What about yourself, Grace?
I've been competing for like a little over 6 years, and every time I try not to get anywhere between 5 to 7 pounds off of my competition weight. So basically, when I cut down on lean, of course, upping the fats and everything, and I make sure I eat those meals every single day, like 6 to 7 meals a day, and sometimes monitoring, like our bodies change constantly, and they're always changing, and you're always learning your body even more. And to lean down and like good pictures, like you said, upping the cardio or downing it depending on where you are. The lower your body percent fat, the more you're burning, the more calories you're burning, the more muscle you have, the more calories you're burning too at rest. So I change all that into take it all into consideration. Typically, when I'm not in competition season or photo shoot season or anything, I'll do maybe 2 or 3 cheat meals a week, but then I just go down to 1. Make sure I always get at least 1 cheat meal a week, especially even in competition that I do.
Now, what's the value, real quick? What's the value of a cheat meal?
The value of cheat meal is because it messes with your metabolism too, and you want to mix up your metabolism. Just because when your body acclimates to things, it stays the same. So in order for it not to stay the same, you got to kind of kick it in the rear a little bit just to get it moving, and then go back to normal so you get better results that way.
All right, Greg, what about yourself?
I switch from McDonald's to Burger King. To be honest with you, and I mean, I don't know how many of you guys are looking at competitions, but to be honest with you, for information for you guys, the secret is, I mean, if you're eating bad, 3 out of your 4 meals, that you eat, 1, you should add another meal. I mean, Justin and I were just talking last night, since we're both off season right now, we up our calories because we want to reset our metabolism. Now, the easiest way I always found, because I've done a lot of work with the clinic and everything else, is you feel your body temperature going up. I feel like a hot man all the time because, like sweating and everything else, and that's how you know your metabolism's going good. A lot of times we'll use the old thermometer in the morning to get our body temperature, and it tells us. Now, for you guys, once again, I always laugh because when people come up to me and ask us diet questions, it's always, well, I hardly eat anything. I just eat carbs. I don't eat anything fattening. But right away, just like Dr. Scott brought up, it's like, whoa. I eat coconut oil, I eat olive oil, I eat macadamia oil. We put all that stuff on. And the secret is, if you get your body burning again, okay, now you can eat more calories and you're getting leaner. Justin and I were just playing around with this diet last night, and he's gonna be surprised, because I'm upping him about 500 more calories, and he's gonna get leaner. Not prettier, but leaner.
Now, when you guys hear that, how counterintuitive does that sound? He's eating more to get leaner. I don't know about you guys, I like that idea. But he's driving his metabolism up, adding more muscle mass, but driving his metabolism by feeding himself. Right? So you're catching the theme? Eat more, feed the system, put the right stuff in, the body responds.
And this is one thing that always caught me in my research and studies. Pound of muscle at rest, and I've heard different numbers, but I use this number because it pops up the most, burns almost 70 calories. So us two lunkheads up here are burning, for every pound of lean muscle mass we have, we're burning 70 more calories than you guys are right now. For every pound of fat you have, you burn 9 calories. So when you lower your calories, which a lot of people do, oh, I'm getting fat, I'm gonna cut back on what I eat. So now all of a sudden you're eating twice a day, 3 times a day, lettuce, put a little bit of the green stuff on it, everything, carbohydrates, my bowl of Fruit Loops, okay? Well, what happens is your body's in starvation mode now, like Dr. Scott brought up. Well, your body, thank God, is a genius, because it goes, well, let's see, I could burn a pound of lean muscle mass, I could save 69 calories, or I could burn a pound of fat, and I'll save 9 calories. Well, I'm getting rid of her muscle, because now I'm going to save her life. And this is the mistake, people make. And, we're not asking you to go live at the gym or anything else, because trust us, we don't either. We get in there, we do our thing, and we're out of there. Okay? But if you start eating right and just start doing some, different things, whether it's walking, doing some kind of lifting, you'd be surprised how you would speed up your metabolism. You'd be able to eat more, and you're going to get leaner. Okay? And myself, I pretty much do what they do, just to give you an example, for the breakfast this morning, I had 6 whole naked eggs, a cup of egg whites, and 2 cups of spinach in there, and a big spoonful of coconut oil, and that was breakfast. And, the rest of my meals are pretty good size throughout the thing.
6 eggs?
6 whole eggs, yes, sir, 7 times a week. And just so you guys know this, I had heart issues 12 years ago because I had double pneumonia. Ingenious me never went back for treatment, and it turned into my heart wasn't beating correctly. So I'm technically a heart patient. They always laugh when I come down there, but it was stupid on my part because I never took care of my pneumonia. But the thing of it is, my cholesterol level and everything else has been fine, all that stuff. Like I said, I've gone down and we've done tests at the clinic, and just with you were mentioning with the protein, to be honest with you, I always laugh because the good old FDA, which is full of a lot of baloney, 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight is 2.2 pounds. So I'm assuming you weigh about $195, 220? Okay, so technically you should be eating roughly 100 grams of protein a day. I eat almost 450 grams a day. It's about 450 grams a day, which are close to 4 right now. And you, kiddo?
I probably go right around 200.
Yeah. And the biggest misconception is always, they've told all of us, don't eat protein, it's bad for you. Well, no wonder Procter & Gamble's is in bed with the FDA, and what's Procter & Gamble's making? Walk around every aisle in the grocery store.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every aisle in the grocery store, not the outside section, and it's all processed food. And and that's where they've really suckered us in to eating that way. And everybody, Greg, I don't eat any fat, I eat carbs constantly. Well, that is the greatest thing to make you fat. If you control your insulin, you control where you put your body fat.
I wanted to ask about post-workout meals, because whenever I exercise, I always hear about, you're supposed to have this or that.
What did you hear?
Well, I hear you should put protein powder, you shouldn't have protein powder, it should be, drinking chocolate milk is fine, or so I usually just make myself a green smoothie, but
What
what...
races juice bar, like I do, I go to easy. Just
Well,
keep going.
like, what would you recommend? Like, put protein powder, no protein powder? But
Do you want to answer first?
Sure.
actually,
Actually,
like carb to protein.
it depends like on if you're just in cardio or if you're doing strength training. And then you also want to make sure between, you always want to do strength training before cardio if you are doing both of them. But usually an hour before I train, I get that in. I do protein first before a workout, usually about an hour. It
An hour
depends.
before the workout?
Before?
I think you said you do an hour before.
And then do you maybe after? Because I always
Oh,
heard
yeah.
it's supposed to be after.
You want it within 30 minutes. You want it within 30 minutes. 30 to what?
It's
So
something.
is it more?
Protein and carbs.
Or protein. A fasted is protein typically is what we usually do.
And
So
not all,
it's not meat?
It depends on your goal.
not all protein powders are created equal either.
Correct.
So can that also count as, dare I say, like the protein bars, like, they take what I'm thinking of is, I don't know. Go ahead, finish, you tell me.
Typically, for the most part, like 90% of the time, protein bars are Snickers bars with protein powder.
Yeah.
Right, but aren't there some that are better than
If you're
others,
thinking of
or
Quest
no,
bars,
are they
Quest
all?
thinking of Quest
like-
bars, which is fine, but except they do have a high amount of fiber in them. Fiber actually slows down your digestion. When you're done working out, you want fast nutrients. You want to get into your muscles because that's when they want it and need it the most.
Yep.
Okay.
So a whey isolate or even just a whey, I mean, you want something that's pre-broken down.
Okay.
And then, me personally, I'll have a protein shaker after I work out, and within an hour, I eat a full meal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I even drink carbs that are pre-digested with protein powder while I'm training. Because I have, see, I used to go along with what Scott said, where I used to eat like a king in the morning, and then kind of, well, what I have found, if I want to continue to keep doing what I want to do on a competitive level, I have my protein and fat for breakfast. And then luckily with kind of being retired from teaching, you know, coaching football and the training business and everything, training, it gets crazy from, probably what, 10 o'clock? Wait till. But anyway, I'll have my carbs an hour before I get to the gym with my protein, and it's usually protein powder and oatmeal, almond butter slammed in there. I go to the gym, I have a protein carb thing that I make up where I have 50 grams of fast acting protein, 25 grams of fast acting protein whey, 50 grams of carbohydrates, my branch chains, my glutamines and all that. Once again, we are competitors, okay? I'm not telling you you gotta go out and do that, but I feed myself as I'm training. As soon as I'm done, okay, I call my favorite restaurant, hey honey, I'm on my way home, okay? Either I'll slam white rice with chicken, ground buffalo, you know, whatever. And I'll have that because, and I eat white rice then because, matter of fact, we were just talking about this, Jess and I, brown rice takes longer to digest. My body is screaming, hey, feed me, so I gotta replenish my glycogen that I burned up from training. So I slam all that in. Now my next meal after I'm done training, I have that one meal right after I'm done training, high carbs. The next meal after that will be medium high carbs, and then I start getting rid of the carbs as the night goes on because my body is shutting down. Okay, so when I eat all that around, and when you mentioned chocolate milk, to be honest with you, as crazy as it sounds, chocolate milk ain't a bad thing to have right after you're done training because it has the milk sugar, and it has protein, and it's carbs, where, I mean, I laugh, which probably, I know only one character probably know this, Mark in the back, but a gentleman by the name of Tom Platts, who's a phenomenal bodybuilder. I used to laugh because he used to eat Pop-Tarts when he was done training. Well, Pop-Tarts breaks down into sugar real quick, high glycemic, which spikes his insulin, which if it's going to get pushed in our muscle tissue, we love it. But if it's not going in our muscle, uh-oh, here it comes.
Just make sure the milk didn't come from a cow. Remember, you guys remember that from earlier?
Hey, you get it from a
No
chocolate
cow,
cow.
no cow
That's what I gotta make sure.
So, okay, let me clarify something. Rice and oatmeal are okay? Like, I'm not talking like brown sugar, maple sugar oatmeal, but like plain oatmeal?
Oh,
Those
yeah.
are okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put even
Those
steroids
are-
in them.
Grains?
Well, you have to consider something here, okay? We're talking that they have very specific calorie training needs.
Okay.
Okay? So if you're not doing,
Calories we take in,
yeah, they take an astronomical amounts of calories. Okay, so,
this can almost be at 4,000.
right,
I'll be
Yeah, I
I'll be at
right.
3,600.
So when you're talking about the way that you take in your calories, things like that, you notice that they're never doing those things in isolation. You hear what he said before?
Right.
If he's taking those, he's having other things with them to try not to go and prevent one thing from being the dominant food group.
Okay, so for the general population,
Yes.
if we like, and so I like oatmeal,
Yeah.
and I don't need a ton of it, but to make up for the fact that I like it, I went to just the plain, like nothing added. And I don't add anything to it, but maybe that's not a good thing, maybe I should be putting,
Put coconut oil,
Okay.
I love putting almond butter in that taste.
Yeah.
okay,
I mean, I
but
have-
not peanut butter?
Well,
No.
see, to be honest with you,
From my
But that's
perspective,
kind of like,
The fats from it are
it
a lot
has
different.
no nutritional, in comparison,
Right.
almond butter is better,
Yeah, I'll
like
be honest
cashew
with
butter?
yeah.
cashew butter is good
Okay,
also.
okay.
I've got a couple of questions here.
And I would also,
Okay.
and I would also recommend, one second, I'd also recommend you throw like a protein powder in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason for it is, just what Scott and all three of us brought up, hey, I got protein, I got
Chocolate
carb.
protein powder.
And it tastes awesome, by the way.
Hey,
And then it's,
that's,
then we're back to almost
Yes.
the maple brown sugar one, almost.
Sue, my daughter happens to love that exact concoction, by the way. My 4-year-old,
Like chocolate.
yeah, chocolate oatmeal with protein powder in it. Yes, she loves it.
somebody have a question?
Okay, I think Brittany was up
Yeah.
first.
I don't know if this is another myth, I was just wondering if we could clear it up. I heard that if you don't eat within that half hour after your workout, you lose up to 50% of your workout that you just completed. Is that accurate?
Well, this is one thing I always laugh at, because as a matter of fact, the gyms we go to just happens to have these UW3s or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So, a lot of the, and nothing against young guys, I used to be like that too at one time, where go get pumped up, then you go to the bar, and hey, this is my name, so get away from me. But they, it's home and feed the machine, and put the machine to bed, because we always laugh, and I mean, I don't care where my wife and I go across the country. One day, I don't do chest, because every idiot in the world goes out drinking on the weekends, and then they come in to work out on Monday because they feel terrible, they're hungover. So they want to do all bench presses so they can lay down, it's more comfortable. So I don't do chest wherever we're traveling to, and that's something that, because that's all that's going to be used.
That's true.
So, to me, you're not going to lose 50%, but when you work out, you're not building, you're tearing.
Right, you
And
need to
so-
build back up.
Yep.
Yeah, if you're not taking in your BCAAs during your workout, if you're not eating throughout your workout, your
Branched
body
chain
actually-
amino acids.
Yeah, sorry.
What?
Branched chain amino
If
acids.
you go to Supplement Haven, they'll explain.
Your body actually goes catabolic. It does start eating itself because it still needs energy to sustain itself from the work you just did. And all it has to go on if you don't eat during your workout or take branched chain amino acids during your workout is your muscle. And that's going to be the first thing it goes for.
Yeah.
And that's why the biggest thing when you're dieting isn't to always watch the scale, because just because you lowered your calories and your weight is going down doesn't mean you're losing good weight. If you're losing muscle, yay, the scale's going to go down, but you're also going to look softer, you're going to look more flabby, and that's not what you're trying to do in the first place.
No.
So really, I mean, you have to learn to trust the mirror. And unfortunately for women, that's the hardest thing to get them to do, is to not stare at the scale and look at the numbers.
So what
Oh, I'll
you're,
go with that.
so what you're saying is that when you work out, I mean, you really have a good workout, and if you don't go home and eat a meal, you're basically, your body's gonna be cannibalizing the muscle that you did, it's not gonna be burning
Yes.
the fat.
It will
Absolutely.
only use the muscle as a source
Yeah,
of energy. It's much easier to go and attack the
It's
muscle
based on your
than it
heart
is the
rate.
fat.
It may have burned the muscle, the fat while you were training to use as energy, but it all depends on what you had to eat. Now, I explain with myself, I eat carbs before I go to the gym, so I'm burning carbs
It's
down.
self-sustaining.
Okay, now, when we get in training mode, my carbs are getting reduced because I'm forcing my body to get my savings account, okay? And on guys, it's in the belly, on the ladies, it's in the hips.
So you should eat something before you work out?
Well, but I would, like, if we were all getting ready for a show now, which none of us are, okay? This is the good old off-season, so we need to get fat, blow up our cheeks. No, but if we were getting ready for contests, I wouldn't have a whole cup of oatmeal before I went to the gym. I'd have a half a cup of oatmeal. So I'd cut my carbs from 57 grams of carbs down to basically 28 grams of carbs.
But basically, you should eat something before you work out.
Well, once again, going back to what we've all said, hey, every 2.5, 3 hours, I'm feeding the machine. Because you know why? Then I never get hungry. Because I'll be honest with you, the way I always like to explain to people, if I don't eat, when I get home, I'm a great white shark. What's there to eat?
Right.
But if I'm always feeding myself, you know what? You can put, I mean, we laugh because my wife and I, we have 3 kids. I used to take them to Dairy Queen when I was dining for a contest and everything else. I'd have my food with me and I would just eat that. They're eating their Sundays. I mean, they didn't get deprived from going to McDonald's or any place else on those rare occasions. But if you plan, and Scott brought this up, if you plan how you're going to eat for that day, okay, or that week, it's as easy as can be. And this is one thing I always stress with people. It's got to be stuff you like to eat. I mean, for 2 years straight, I ate tuna fish and rice and green beans. I can't, if I eat tuna, I'm like, ugh, you know what I mean? I got to put a ton of mustard on to kill the taste. And tuna's good for you, but I eat it so much back in the old days, we didn't know any better. I mean, now, I eat chicken. Matter of fact, Lang's right next door. I'm one of their favorite customers. I go and get 10 pounds of ground chicken, 8 pounds of ground sirloin from them about every 4 or 5 days, okay? And I make them all up, so when I do my meals for the day, throw them in my cooler, boom. Wherever I'm off to, I got myself. And I always take protein powder with me because if I'm gonna miss a meal, I mean, hey,
What do you mix it with though, like if you're away from home? You can mix it with water?
oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've even gone so bad as I'll pour the protein powder in my mouth and pour water down.
Right.
Okay.
But I got these.
Yeah, okay, so, I'm sorry, Dr. Lynn, what were you going to say?
Brittany, did that answer your question?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. I saw 2 hands in the back, Rebecca and Mark. Who wants to go first?
I think she was back up.
She's better looking.
Okay, so I just want to know if you guys are truly dairy-free. Like, do you actually live a dairy-free life, or not so much?
Vegetarian way.
Right.
And
But
I
otherwise
do
you-
go out for ice cream, so I mean, I can't say I'm 100% year-round dairy-free. But in training mode, I mean, for the most part, aside from the occasional casein protein, which I might have, yeah, I mean, there's no milk or anything like that in the diet.
Coconut milk and almond milk, yes.
But as far as like actual cows, dairy,
Yeah.
anything like that, no cheese, nothing like that?
Yeah,
She's on cheat meals.
Okay.
I don't do yogurt or any of that, or milk. I do go to East Coast Custard probably, 5 times a year. Those are my big treats. My Doberman loves that place, I can do ice cream too. And that, but otherwise, I don't eat any dairy really.
About the yogurt though, what about the good bacteria and the good probiotics and everything that's in there? Where do you get that from?
I have a lot of
You
other
don't
sources.
eat-
Fermented foods are much more effective at getting your
I
probiotics.
take tablets for
Yeah.
probiotics.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to eat them, fermented foods. Fermented foods are the absolute best sources of probiotics. Otherwise, supplementally, you can get them in much higher quantities. So
What's
that
an example?
sauerkraut.
Oh,
Yeah, sauerkraut is super high in probiotics. So, but any fermented food, you know, like, yeah, so if it's a pickle food, fermented food, kefir, so things like that, really good sources of it.
wait, oh, so kefir's good, but isn't that dairy?
No, kefir's not dairy-based. So, no, kefir's not dairy-based.
Is it? I always thought it was like liquid yogurt.
No, I don't remember what it's made from, but it's not a dairy product.
Mark?
It's kind of 2 parts of what I was going to say here, especially for some of the people that maybe you guys can reiterate here. Would you say that consistency in the meals is very important? Same time, you know, try to keep your meals consistent every day, throughout the week, similar times, so you get that furnace going. Would you say that would be important for, you know, as a kind of a rule of thumb?
I mean, I'd say, yeah, I mean, that's why we eat every 2.5 to 3 hours. I mean, so from the time you get up, I mean, you want to feed yourself, I mean, I think I get up, use the restroom, and I'm already eating.
Yeah.
And then it's every 2.5 to 3 hours after that.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, I stay pretty consistent. The only time I'm not eating is when I'm sleeping, or I even eat when I train, so I can't even say when I'm training.
And then when, especially for people that are looking
Mark,
to,
just
oh,
one-
yeah,
so
go ahead.
one thing in that too, what's funny for all you guys too is, and see, I mean, if I'm something different for you guys, I laugh. If I don't eat after 2.5 hours, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I'm looking for food.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so my body's so well trained that it becomes automatic.
And you know when it's like 2 hours, it's
Oh, yeah.
already
You have to look at
happening.
the clock.
You have to look at your watch. It's like, yeah, where is it? I'm sorry, go ahead then.
The other part was, especially people that are looking, just to alter the diet, not looking at competition or anything, just to understand where they're at right now, would you recommend, just for a couple of days, record everything you've been eating, actually jot it down? And then, once you actually see what you're actually eating and at what times of the day, from there, maybe they can start making some modifications. Oh, I'm only eating twice a day, I'm actually eating 1,200 calories. Would that be something, just to get them started, something important?
Well, I laugh because people that I work with, I usually have them write down what they eat for 5 to 7 days. And I always laugh. First 3 days I don't even look at it, because since they're recording it, I know they're eating good.
They're paying attention.
By day 4, it's like, this. By day 5, they're back to eat the way they normally eat. So 5, 6, and 7 tells me how they really eat. And, you know, once again, not that that's the end of the world for you, but it's called, when I look at those, 5, 6, 7 days, and look at your 3 or 4 meals you're eating, and I say, you know what, meal 1, meal 2 are good, let's clean up meal 3, 4. What else do you like to eat that's good for you? And like Dr. Scott had mentioned about, like fried chicken. Well, we'll find different alternatives that you like. Because I'll always laugh, people always ask me, and I'm sure like they ask these guys, well, Greg, just write me up a diet. Well, if I just write you up a diet, that's what I like. You're gonna follow it after 3 or 4 days and go, man, you're nuts. I ain't eating like this. And I understand that, because we all have different tastes. But you could find things that you like that are good for you. And, just a simple thing for you guys. If you're struggling right now a little bit, like when I'm starting out with somebody new that's just wants to get back in shape, hey, eat good today, eat whatever you want to eat tomorrow. Eat good the next day, eat whatever you want. Once we make it through the week like that, so now it's almost like quitting smoking or whatever. Once you do that, then I say the next week, we're going to eat good for 2 days and eat whatever you want for your 3rd day. Because if you say never, you're never going to have that again. Oh man, you crave that like crazy. That's like with East Coast custard. Hey, I go there 5 times a year. I think about it the whole way down there. Whether my Doberman does. But I laugh. After I have it, I go, it was okay.
But I'm sure any of us could tell you, who've ever done anything like that, is the more that you eat well, and then you eat whatever you want that day, the less you're going to want to do that, because you're not going to feel as good. So you solve your own problem. You.
Yes, Mary.
I have 2 questions. First of all, you mentioned that the protein supplements are all different. Which one do you recommend?
You know what? I would not just recommend one. When I
Or
look
how
at
do we know when we walk into a store and see 3,000 of them? Which
You
one?
know, this is where, I'll be honest with you, with Justin trying to, because you will see on the back of protein powders, it'll say supplement facts or nutrition facts, okay? The law with the FDA is different. One is as a food source, the other has a stricter adherence that it has to meet what it actually says on the label. Just like if I held up a bottle of whatever, and it says only 2 calories. Well, but there's 20 servings in here. Okay, because what was that? Snapples. My wife's, go ahead.
I love Snapple when it first came out. Not diet Snapple, regular Snapple. And I looked at the carbs and I said, oh, there's only 17 grams of carbs in this bottle. This is really good. I drank this stuff for 2 months and I put on weight. I said, Greg, what's going on? He said, let me see the bottle. Well, there were 3 servings. So it wasn't,
17.
It was times 3.
51 grams of carbs.
Well, yeah. And
Sugar water.
yeah. We
Okay.
stopped drinking that.
But that's where I would seriously, and for just different tastes. Matter of fact, the 3 of us were laughing because we were talking about different protein powders. Back in my day, we had fish protein powder and it tasted so terrible. As soon as you put it in your mouth, you'd be drinking something to get it down, and we Brewers yeast, liver tablets, and now,
Come a long
oh
way.
man, I mean, I have chocolate, like you said, chocolate protein powder. I can eat that all day long. I mean, compared to what we used to eat. I But the thing of it is, I would just, because I know I get a lot of kids a lot of times, because especially with being being a former school teacher, still a coach, they buy that weight gain stuff. Well, to me, go buy some powdered milk and go buy some real protein powder, mix it together, just add some oatmeal in it. You can put on all the good calories you want, because all they really do is throw all this sugar and all this other crap in you. They're just spiking your insulin, and you're just putting on body fat. So I would, and I'm not just, he's a friend of mine, and he has good products, but I would just say, I know he lets you taste them and the different things, because that's important also. Because if you find something you really like. And you said you had a second question also?
Yes.
Hold on, so Justin, if they walk in your store and there's all those proteins, how do they figure out what's best?
Well, again, it depends on, what part of your day you're eating them in, because you've got casings, you've got isolates, and you've got blends. Like Greg said, there are ones that are nutritional grade, and there are ones that are just supplemental grade. Again, we'll use laundry detergent as an example. You get what you pay for. If you go to Target and get a box of laundry detergent that's 1 million servings for $5, and then you go and get your a good brand that you're going to spend $20 on, it makes all the difference in the world. I've got a bunch of samples out there. I brought some with me, so we'll take some home with you. All the stuff I carry, probably I'd say 70% of the ones I carry are pharmaceutical grade products, and they're made in pharmaceutical grade facilities, which is definitely a step up from any food grade or below. So that's something you want to look for. And a lot of times they'll have stamps on the bottles that'll tell you what kind of facility or what kind of standards and bylaws they follow as far as production. You want them to be certified by somebody as far as what they have in them. But like I said, I'll give you a card to the store, come on by. Pretty much everything I carry, I've personally tried. I don't just throw things on the shelf.
And just so you know this too, I could buy whey protein from a factory, and I could put my own label on and sell it. And in the old days, a lot of my buddies were doing that. And they'd buy it would cost them $5, they'd sell it for 20. And it was just a cheap crate of whey. And just so you know, do you want to explain ionic exchange whey, casein, egg, how it?
Basically what it is, it's the length of time it takes for it to break down your system. You've got hydrolyzed whey, which is much further broken down, so your body doesn't have to work as hard to process it. Then you can go into your regular whey, which is call them a medium chain, where it's going to take a little longer. You probably got 2 to 4 hours for your body to break down, and then you go into your caseins, which is your milk wheys, and they take up to 7 hours to digest. There's certain times, like I'll do a casein before I go to bed, so what it's doing is it's feeding your system during your sleep. You sleep 6 to 8 hours, most general people, that's what you sleep. So you want something to feed your system so your body isn't, again, eating yourself, to provide energy throughout the night.
Which goes back to what you had asked about eating right away after you're done training. That's why we have the casein at night, as we're sleeping, we have all the materials to repair our bodies.
That's what I was gonna ask too, is when you guys actually stop eating at night.
It depends on the season, like so. And I won't lie, I get up in the middle of the night and I'll grab a protein. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll die.
Because that's another fallacy too. They tell you, don't eat after this time at night. And it's, but they're still telling you that.
Don't get up and have a piece of cake and go back to sleep. But a protein shake, especially for as much as I work out, I play a lot of sports on top of working out. I burn a lot of calories throughout the day, so I know that my body's going to use it. If you're inactive or your mobility or something is limited, yeah, I'd probably tell you not to do that. But if you're a generally active person or you have a generally active job, your body can handle it.
Yes.
Going on what you just said, okay, for the average person like me, how do you figure out how many calories you need in a day and then break it down into those 6 or 7 meals? That's what I'm
That all depends on your lifestyle, your job, everything.
Yeah, you start by, there's ways you can start by figuring out your body mass index so that you can have a general guideline. Because you have to have a baseline diet for yourself to see how you react to it. And then you start manipulating and changing small things. I'm talking maybe 100 calories a week to see how you react. Because again, it's just like taking on a new client. You don't know how they're going to react to carbs or to fats or something.
You guys actually design programs for people just based on
What we always call it is, we're going to give you a guesstimate. So, you're not supposed to ask a lady how much you weigh, but lie to me, just tell me a number.
150.
Okay, 150. So, I would probably, once again, just like we said, would you do exercise-wise?
3 to 4 times a week.
Weight training, aerobics?
Sort of half and half.
half and half, okay, where I would at least give you 1.3 grams of protein per pound. So if you're $1.50, okay, take another third of that, so we're probably looking at almost, 180, 190 grams of protein. I would probably give you 1.5 to 1 gram of carbs, but I would cut your carbs on your non-training days because you don't need that extra energy. So this way, I feed you on days you need it, I cut it back on days you don't. And one thing that Grace mentioned, and I know Justin and Scott did also, throw you a couple refeed, cheat days, whatever, meals. And what I usually tell people is, I'm going to have you do that on your 2 hardest workout days. And for us knuckleheads, it's legs and back. So on that day, we burn a lot more calories. So hey, if Justin, since he's one of those Italian guys, wants to go out and have his pasta, his pizza, hey, do it up, Justin. Okay, so.
I'm going to interject here. When I first started getting into the bodybuilding community, one of the things that I did is I was very confused. I found working with an expert helped me a lot because in the beginning you don't know how you're going to respond. So I find it very helpful when you have someone who's an expert to go and guide you. And that's part of the reason I had them here because this is what they do. If you have questions that are more in depth, I would try and find some time to talk to them. Especially because in the very beginning, when you don't know what your body's going to be like, having someone to walk you through the process is very helpful. I remember when I was getting ready to do my first show, Dr. Lean and I spent quite a bit of time talking with trainers down where we used to live, and got people to go and help us with putting my diet together. Because in the beginning, I thought I knew nutrition. I didn't realize how much I didn't know. So it was helpful to have someone who could give me a framework so then we could test and see how my body was responding. Was I getting the changes that I wanted to get? So that as we put my diet together, we altered it, changed my calories, up my protein, lowered my protein, up my carbs, lowered my carbs, and saw what my body was doing. I found that it was much easier when I had someone who had much more experience, much more expertise that I could lean on to help me in the beginning so that I can get where I wanted to go, but not have to try and do it on my own because I find it's very frustrating for people who don't have that background. So yes, so I would talk to them, talk to somebody who's got more experience with it in preparing diets. I think it would be very helpful.
On top of that, you always need an outside eye. I don't care what level of training you're at, whether you're a beginner and haven't done it, or at a pro level, you're your own worst enemy. You see yourself every day, you're not going to notice small changes, and you're always going to be hardest on yourself. So just having an outside eye is
it's very helpful.
And then just to finish up, once we set that up on you, we would see what you look like after 2 weeks and ask you.
See if everybody's responding.
Yeah, because usually then what we got to do is those dreaded carbs. We got to play with those because maybe we're feeding you too many carbs, or maybe you're eating them at the wrong time. And this is why, once again, it's so timed on how to do different things. But what's amazing is you're never hungry. I mean, you're always.
You don't have to start yourself.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, you guys give your. I hate right now because I'm not dieting for a show. I just got done 4 weeks ago or whatever. So now I can eat whatever I want. And I hate it because when I did go to East Coast Custard, after driving home, I hadn't eaten anything like that for about 4 or 5 months. I was just like, oh man. My doggy was happy. I was happy. But to me, I'm better when I'm regimented, and that's why I laughed this week. It's like, hey, I'm back to exactly what I'm eating because I feel better. And once again, hey, will I give myself a cheat meal after doing legs? Yes, I will. What yet? I don't know, but I'm sure I'll come up with something. And by the way, cheat meal doesn't mean ice cream, cake, potato chips, all that. It might be pasta. Like maybe lasagna 2 weeks ago, so I hadn't had lasagna in 6 months, and I was like, wow, that was good. She not only made me one, she made me 2. And I mean, just so you know, we do eat some normal things sometimes.
Scott, did you have a question?
Yeah, you had mentioned that you get prepared ahead of time by preparing some meals that you make good choices and you have it available for you. I'm in sales, I'm on the road all day. Are you almost always, out of your 7 meals, having at least couple, 3 shakes like 7 days a week as 3 of your meals, or?
You know, to be honest with you, when I taught at Cleveland Heights the last 17 years, I had the gangbang report with kids coming back from juvie. So I had to go make home visits, I had to go meet with their POs, I had to go check on their jobs. I taught in the morning for 4 hours and the rest I was on the road. So I have mastered how to put the bowl between your legs and drive and eat.
Yeah.
Coolers everywhere you go.
Yes.
So you're just eating, like, if you make something up, you're just eating it cold, there's some cold chicken. I know,
You know,
Grace, you had like chicken and sweet potatoes.
He's used to
and
cold
stuff.
food.
Oh,
Yeah, like Dr. Scott's a perfect example, because, you know, there's days where he's here for 10 or 12 hours treating, right? So like you just
They're
saw,
sleeping on the table.
some days he does have, what do you make, 4
Yeah, because I only have, you know, in a given day, I might only have a minute or so between patients. So I'll come back and I'll shotgun a shake. Not an ideal way to go and do things, but it helps me to keep the machine fed. But you know, in your scenario, Scott, in my past life before I did this, I was on the road. And so what I did is I take a cooler with me, and I would eat my food cold. What I did is I had things that were palatable cold. You know what I mean? So like if I had chicken, then I would try and have it like where I'd have it with a salad or something like that, something that I could eat and it wouldn't be too bad cold.
Yeah.
You know, but I would if I had a stop to make before I went in or right after I got done, I would have my food there, put it on my cooler. I'd eat in the parking lot if I had to. But it does make all the difference because that consistency with the feeding is really what kind of gets you to that point where you get where you want to consistently.
We took a cooler to the movie theater before.
You did?
Taking them in the restaurant.
We've done that too.
Yeah.
Take
We've
his
done
bag
that
of
too.
chicken out
Holiday
of your
dinners.
purse. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We've
I
done
mean,
that.
most restaurants understand and that way I could take her and the family out to eat. But the worst thing for you though is, you know, when you're driving around, all of a sudden you don't eat because now you start getting hungry. And now you start getting all those good smells from all the restaurants.
Yeah. But, I mean, you're just like, well,
That's why
I'll order the
Yeah.
healthiest thing at Arby's. Well, there's nothing.
Yeah.
You're looking, you're like, I'm trying to eat something.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you kept a bag of almonds in your car, like
Yeah.
I said, I have a circular, like protein powder, it's a Tupperware thing. I mean, I have like 6 servings of protein right in there, and like I said, I could always run in anywhere to buy water. And I mean, once again, we take it to the extreme. I'm not asking you to do that, but I never have to miss a meal. I'm always, you know, because like I said, just when we rushed up here, I got fed, so I'm okay. I know my salmon's waiting for me. I hope.
And even though you're on the road, I've learned that every gas station has a microwave, because I'm a general contractor, so I'm all over the state. I stop it, you know, you don't even have to buy anything, they don't care. You just go in.
There you go.
I mean, and now and then your clients as well, I'm sure you know enough of them that I don't know if you've used their lunchrooms before, but I use my clients' lunchrooms. I eat on my food. I mean, if you can't palate it cold, I mean, there's ways to find to heat it up. But yeah, having it prepared, having it with you, I mean, it's too easy to stop somewhere and just grab whatever.
It is. It's really good.
They have some, even if they don't have one out and you ask them to use one, they'll show you where the one is in the back of the break room. They don't care. Not no shame. I'll use it like this.
And if you feel bad, buy water.
Or when you look like you do.
I have a question. You're having protein powder for like, when you're saying you're having protein powder for a meal, are you actually buying the protein powder that's like a meal replacement? Or are you just having just the protein powder that you would like supplement in something else? Like just plain protein with water, or is it more of a meal?
In my own case, I usually will have my whey protein during the day because I want something fast acting. Like, yeah, just like when I got done with football practice today before we had to come up here, I had oatmeal, I had casein protein, and I had whey protein because I know casein's going to drag on for me, or the whey's going to get me right away from getting done with football practice. But I have my oatmeal, put my almond butter in there, so, you know, once again, I can do that. Rushed home to get her, still hungry, so I just threw protein powder with, matter of fact, I grabbed Metamucil for fiber, I just threw it in there, and put some olive oil in there, so I had a complete meal with all the nutrients that I needed. So that's what I always try to do. If I'm in a pinch, I'll just have the protein in the water. Because protein is a friend, and especially, you know, hey,
Right.
if you're getting over 35, 40, and fact, after you hit your 30s, you start losing a percentage of muscle mass every year. If you don't use it, you don't feed it. And that stupid FDA, oh, eat your carbs, just a little bit of protein. Well, your body, once again, I told you, it's very efficient. I'm going to start burning some muscle mass off of you so that I can keep you alive because you're just feeding me carbs. Carbs helps with glycogen and energy, what Dr. Scott said, but it doesn't rebuild what protein does. And I laugh because when we did studies out at the clinic, when they used to do our blood work, they'd go, oh my God, you're going to have kidney problems, you got all this,
protein in your urine?
yeah, I was trying to think of the classy name they have.
Yeah,
Creatine and all that. Well, here, when all of a sudden, we start asking them questions, you're testing us, I just got done training this morning, I ate my meals, so now, when I train, I'm breaking down all that protein in my muscle. How about we do this, Doc? 2 days from now, I'm not training. I'll come in before I train, so now I've had a whole 24 hours off. And when they did it, it was cut down 3/4. And all of a sudden they go, oh my God, it's from your guys' training, it's not from. So, and once again, creatine, a supplement that got a bad thing. Dr. John Lombardo, who used to be down at the clinic, he was the Olympic doctor. He was in on the autopsy. I don't know if you guys remember this. There was a big scare, it's probably about 20 years now ago. 2 wrestlers died in college, and they were taking creatine. So right away, they wanted to get rid of creatine. Well, Dr. John Lombardo was in on the autopsy because I had been in to see him, and John goes, Greg, creatine had nothing to do with those wrestlers, with their deaths. These 2 kids, which God rest their souls, they were in rubber suits, they hadn't had any fluid for almost 24 hours. They were taking Lasix, which is the strongest, blood diuretic you could take for losing water, and it loses all your electrocytes along with it. They basically fried themselves, they dehydrated themselves. But they were trying to make creatine to be a bad thing. I had to go down and give a presentation at the clinic to all the doctors, so I laugh because doctors, I love them dearly, but they are so stupid and ignorant. I don't mean to be disrespectful to them, but they try to be to us sometimes, where they have no knowledge on nutrition. And most doctors, if you look at them, minus the ones with us here, a lot of them are in very terrible shape. And they have not much knowledge on nutrition. They were pushing Ensure on their patients. And when I had them read the label to me, they were, oh my God, we never realized what's in Ensure. And I'm like,
right.
So
medical school only has, if you're lucky, 1 semester of nutrition, and usually it's split into a mini-semester, where it's a half of a class period. So if you talk medical school in 5 years, 1/2 of 1 semester is the standard for medical school. So your source for your nutrition knowledge really should be your medical doctor, unfortunately. God bless them, you have something that's pathology, they're the place to be. Nutrition, unfortunately, is not their specialty, and not the place to get your knowledge from.
And I just laugh because I'm very happy. A lot of doctors I know, they'll call me up, they ask me, wait, what about this? And I appreciate that because I call them up for the injuries I have because that's their expertise. So, and I'm not putting doctors on my knees, I'm just trying to tell you, do your own research and do your own experimentation. Because 1979, when they added fructose to the American diet, America became the fattest it has ever become when they changed the sweetener. And if you go back and look at statistics, you'll see.
Yeah, that was the slide I had earlier, showing how the obesity epidemic is going rampant since fructose became for the diet.
Is protein powder safe for kids?
How old are you?
12.
You know what? Yes, the only thing I would say to you though is, a lot of times I get asked questions with weightlifting for children. Well, to be honest with you, weightlifting is safe for children.
Right.
If they don't do single lifts. Like when kids tell me, well, how much, my standard joke, they always say, how much can you lift, coach? And I go, I think it's 226 today. I almost got up out of bed. Well, my wife had to help push. You know what I mean? I don't do singles. Justin doesn't do singles. I know she doesn't do singles. It's called, you want to do repetitions because that'll help. build, their strength, their tendons, their ligaments.
Well, I'm just saying in general, not, I mean, she's not doing that. I'm just saying in general for,
Are created equally.
right.
But
Okay,
if it's a matter of getting protein in versus not getting protein in, it's get the protein in first.
okay.
So try and get the
So
high.
there are types that are safe and that's okay.
We used to stick protein powder in our kids' pancakes.
Because our daughters had.
Right.
So I mean, this way, nutrients, matter of fact, our oldest, when she was 4 years old, her girlfriend lived next door, so she went to sleep over there for the first big sleepover. And the mom next door, she calls us up and she goes, "Your daughter asked for eggs for breakfast. She won't eat them because she said eggs aren't yellow." Because we always fed her egg whites, so she won't eat them. Pride, we got child abuse charges.
Yeah.
Anybody else, any other, by the way, just a couple general things for some of you guys. If you're just starting out, okay, just get up and do something. I always laugh because a lot of people always tell me, hey, you don't have enough time. And I understand that because we're all busy also. But when you're watching your TV program, if you get up and dance during the commercials, while you're watching that 1 hour program, you will have a half-hour of aerobics in by the time that program's over.
Leave your blinds open.
And I mean, when you go out for a walk, get down and do push-ups, come in here, to do the bands, do the kettlebells, whatever. If you get up and if you use it, you won't lose it. And it's amazing how your lifestyle will change. Because I mean, that's where we all live. This is our lifestyle.
The lifestyle,
Yeah.
Well, just like everything else, you find time for what you want to do. I mean, if your health's important to you, then you'll make time for it. There's got to be something in your day that you either give up or alter. I mean, if it's something that's important to you, it's something you want to do for yourself.
And we have 2 treadmills of life cycle set up by the TV. I mean, when our kids were growing up, hey, you want to watch TV? You should get some exercise in too. I mean, not that we chained them to it or anything else, but you just go just like my wife and I. Hey, what's it matter if you're sitting there watching TV or if you're moving around? I mean, if you didn't get something done for the day.
Yep, at our house we have a treadmill, we have 2 yoga mats, a small set of kettlebells, we have bands. You can always find a way, a place to try and make it work. It does not require a lot of space to exercise. I mean, the amount of space it takes to go and drop down and do a push-up is about as much work as you need to go and make in the house.
And the kids like it.
They do. Yeah, my daughter will drop down and do yoga with me.
I mean, hey, you start out doing 1 push-up tomorrow, next week you're up to 2, the week after that you're up to 3. It's amazing what you can accomplish. What you gotta do is take that first step. And just with the diet, like I said, if you eat bad for every meal, clean it up for 1 meal that first day, and then 2 meals the second day.
That's so much more energy too.
Yes, you will. It's amazing how when you get your diet in check, you start eating real consistently, how good you feel in general. Your sense of well-being will really and truly go through the roof. It's hard to explain until you've actually done it. And I strongly encourage, if you've taken anything away from tonight, start getting into a habit of eating more frequently. Start watching what your body does. You will be amazed in just a few short days how much better you feel when you eat consistently like they're talking about here.
And as you add to eating muscle, you burn more calories.
Yep.
Just sit and chill.
Yep.
I mean, that's the beautiful part about it. I mean, we're all getting ready for a contest. We gotta eat more because our body temperatures are up. I mean, a lot of times we'll just be sweating because our furnace is at the max. And that's what's nice. But once again, as we start accumulating a bit of our body fat from relaxing our diets, because it's not real healthy to stay super low longer, your energy level isn't quite as good as when we're getting ready, for shows and everything else. Yeah, it's a great diet.
Hey, Jan.
How do you know you're not eating too much? Like for the average person who's not necessarily, trying to bodybuild, but you are working out. But say like but 2 out of 6 of my meals, let's say, are protein shakes. The other 4 meals, how many ounces of protein are we talking?
Well, I'll let you guys
the
know this.
vegetables and
Because part of it is like they were talking is it's specific to your body weight.
right.
Because you need enough protein to really feed the machine. Like what Greg was talking is your protein ratios when you train need to be pretty high. So, I mean, great. What is your ratio? Are you at 2 grams, 1.5 grams?
2 to 2.5 grams of protein per day.
Grace, what are you?
Usually like 1.5 or.
Right? So a rule of thumb is probably around 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. So take that ratio, and that'll give you a framework, and then spread it out during every meal.
The average person would need 0.75 grams per pound of body weight per day to 1.
Right.
I mean, a rough estimate for Jan would probably be somewhere between 4 and 6 ounces of chicken,
Well,
probably.
depending on what you weigh and how many grams. Because someone like Justin or myself or Mark in the back that weighs a little bit more, we gotta consume a lot more protein. And let's just say you weigh about 30, okay? Depends how much you eat. Well, I'm just saying, my wife taught me well. But what I'm saying is, if you go by 1 gram per pound, 130 grams or 1.3, a lot of times I start off with the ladies, because once again, you can't build the muscle mass that a man can build, okay, just because of hormones and everything else, okay? Estrogen is not quite as conducive, yeah, for adding muscle as testosterone is. And by the way, too, gentlemen, when you do start weight training, it'll help boost your own natural testosterone and everything else, which is, a definite plus. And I know the ladies all talk about estrogen and menopause and everything else, where for us guys, it's kind of like nobody talks about it because it's a guy thing. But once again, it's very important because the more we maintain our muscle mass, it's statistically shown the less likely you are to put on weight around your belly, which leads to the heart issues and everything else. Because, just as the studies have come out, even with that testosterone replacement, people that have taken that have increased their lean muscle mass and they have lived longer and are healthier. People that have heart issues that started with testosterone replacement had some issues because it sped it up some, and they should have been on that. But, once again, I would start off with 1 gram, 1.3 gram, and once again, when I was talking about with the belt, I mean, I laugh, clients of mine, even though I upped their calories, well, Greg, my weight stayed the same, but my pants are looser. Well, we added lean muscle mass. Now, if you don't want to add lean muscle mass, then obviously we're going to try to cut you down. But once again, I go back to the more lean muscle mass you have, the more for you ladies with the bones and just our posture and everything else just functions better, and your metabolism burns so much higher. It's so much more forgiving.
There's another major benefit to resistance training. There's a hormone that we produce called human growth hormone that goes down substantially as we age. The more that you do resistance training, the higher the levels of that stay. So human growth hormone is our internal atomic youth. It's what helps our bodies to regenerate. So you want to stimulate that. Resistance training is one of the most effective ways ever shown to go and stimulate the production of human growth hormone.
So you can increase your hormone?
Yes.
Yeah, by training.
Exercise.
By exercising on a regular basis, you stimulate your body to recover. That recovery process stimulates human growth hormone production. So it's tremendous what that stuff can do. It's like a ton of you.
And by the way, too, if those of you who are just doing aerobics, that is great. But a lot of the studies show you're just going to be a lighter version, so your body fat's going to be the same. But if you would include some kind of resistance training twice, 3 times a week, it's tenfold the benefits that you get. And those of you who are just doing resistance training, I strongly advise you to do some type of aerobics. Anything over 20 minutes burns body fat. Okay, and I mean, it could be as simple as, I take my Dobie when I'm not taking East Coast custard. I go out to Hinckley every morning, we go up and down the ledges, okay, for 50 minutes. And he runs, I try to keep up walking, okay? But when you go out and walk around the block, whatever it is, it burns body fat, but you do that along with the weight training, it helps add the muscle mass, and those are, a ton of pluses.
We know it's getting late, so some of you need to get going. Well, I'll probably be around for a few minutes if anyone else has questions. We want to thank our panel for coming, Justin, Grace, and Greg, for all their information.
I hope it was helpful, guys. And if you're looking for supplements and that, or if you like Louise, hey, right there on 303.
Yeah, Justin owns Supplement Haven, Grace owns Juice Plus.
Let's go. Passion juice.
Sorry.
Passion juice.
My head's late, I'm tired. Passion Juice.
Yeah.
And Greg, is there a name for your treatment
Oh,
business?
we have Generation K.
Generation K.
Do you have a website?
2 hours a night. Say again?
Do you have a website for your training?
Yeah.
These guys all have information up front.
All of our
on your
cards
way
are up
out,
front too.
if you want to grab or have other questions. But we'll go ahead and let everybody get up.
Let's give a round of applause.
At 7 o'clock. That's all right.
Yeah, the problem is, there is no so you have to see that you have to see the ball. It's going to increase density when it flips around. So now you can consider things like push-ups, squats, stuff like that. Those are resistance training, but when you're doing something that's heroic like that, muscular
Yeah, right. And so it's the.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, can you get back into the all right.
Good night. Nice to see you.
Feel free to ask them before I as well too.
Yeah.
Totally understand. Thank you so much.
If you're okay with Dr. I gotta get my, I gotta do this. I'll let you
It's interesting. The thing of it is
and then maybe.
anything that is not a meat or a fast food.
Yeah, you know what I
Right? So is there, unless you're eating only meat or fast with your diet, all the other food sources are so that's kind of the thing. You know, you want to try and keep your blood sugar level. So, you know, having something with every meal, so that's what we talk about combining. So you don't run into those issues. You know what I mean? That number of meals is really specific.
And I think
Gino work, Gino will throw them through Koreans. He's just north. So where you in the plaza, it's Hinkley Bridge Plaza, where you went all this.
and that's where I keep like,
If I had,
I know.
today was
And it sounds like it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna say a little farther south before it gets here.
He's on.
It's just like it's
He's on, so yeah.
Oh,
North of,
UXL, I know.
Yeah.
He's in that.
yeah. He's like,
Yeah,
three doors down.
okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
I still kind of.
Okay? Oh, absolutely. No problem, my pleasure. You enjoyed this? Was it helpful? Good. That's fine. I hope you guys got a lot of this. That's all right. Where's mine?
And maybe a lot of it is.
Yeah.
I know how to strategy. Yeah.